Hi, welcome. This is going to be a mini WinFE update in 10 minutes. I just want to go over a couple of changes that we've had, some upgrades and some updates that definitely going to be of interest to you. And I'm just going to go through the new builder process, how it goes, how it works. It's pretty simple and easy. Just to get it set up, I just have a few folders that I suggest to have. An application folder, so if you're looking for some external portable apps like FTK Imager or even X-Ways or anything, just keep it in a folder there. We have our source folder. This is our source Windows 10 folder, and it's best to extract, if you have an ISO file, just extract it to a folder. And you can see here I have a 64-bit and 84-bit folder. That's going to come in handy necessary later. And we have a Windows wallpaper. You can use the default wallpaper in the build, or you can create your own. And then we have our mini WinFE project. So with the project, we're going to extract our files. You can run it from the desktop as I'm doing here, or you can run it from the C drive. The root of the C usually has less problems if you have issues, just to run it from the root of the C. Now we're going to run the PE Bakery executable as administrator. This is our build project. So we'll go ahead and run this, let it go ahead and load up. And it's going to be loading up all our scripts in here. We'll go through that in just a minute as well too. So here we have our PE Bakery. We were using WinBuilder before. PE Bakery is based on WinBuilder. So we're going to start with the first thing. The first issue is the source operating system. We're going to choose 32-bit for this example here. This is one of the #1 problems you'll have if you don't select your source. The WinBuilder, the PE Bakery, is not going to be able to build your WinFE. So go ahead and do the source first. Let's go ahead and expand our scripts. Now most of these scripts you can just leave alone. Here we have core files. You can't change anything there. We have a couple of tweaks. I'm just going to leave everything as it is. We'll go through a couple others here. Or shell. I like BB Lean, but you can choose others as well. Default file manager, Explorer++. For network, you can have WinFE access a network with a connection, but for this demonstration, I'm not going to actually do that. Just uncheck it. I'll leave some recommended options here, command prompt, that sort of thing. Wallpaper, I'm going to use a custom wallpaper and simply just use custom, drill down to where your wallpaper is. And as you remember, I have a folder for wallpaper and I have a 32-bit. And you'll see why I picked 32-bit for here. And then we'll go through these other scripts. And these are all scripts that you can choose, and they're all optional. And just to go through, let's say a few of them here, we have a launch bar. If you want to do a launch bar, kind of like an Apple type of launch bar. If you have a folder that you want to add to the build, you can drill down to a folder. And for example, apps, I have some apps there. I can add that folder, and that's going to be injected into the build. For this purpose, we're not going to do that. You can write your own scripts. If you want to run upon boot, you can do that. A couple other programs, 7-zip. This will automatically download and install 7-zip to your WinFE build. And we have others, Explorer++, we'll choose that. We have some forensic acquisition utilities. If you like to use those particular tools, there's a script for that to install that. We have screenshot, screen grab tool. We have pretty much anything that you may want to consider to use. FTK Imager Lite has a script. And we'll say we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll choose Lite, and we're just going to select the executable. And once we select executable, we're going to add to cache. And this is going to copy the entire FTK Imager Lite into the build directly. So we'll make sure we check that. We have a couple other scripts in here, some hardware information. I really don't suggest having a lot of these scripts added, but just in case you need them, they are there for particular things like a web browser, PDF viewers, that sort of thing. We have tight VNC server, again, if you're looking for network connections. We have a WinHex script. So if you look for WinHex, and again, that's not a forensic program I would want to put for this. I would rather use X-Ways forensics, and the same just like FTK Imager. We're going to drill down to the executable, the 32-bit executable, which is here. And again, we're going to add this to cache as well. You see 64-bit. If we're making a 64-bit WinFE, you use a 64-bit path. So let's go ahead and add X-Ways to the cache. It may take a few seconds here as it's loading or copying. There we go. All right, so now we're going to go to the most important script of all, and that is the WinFE script. Make sure we check X-Ways. So the WinFE script is it's hardwired in there. You can't uncheck it, which makes it a safer to build. So this is the WinFE script. Now you have two options. You have the write protect tool from Colin Ramsden or disk manager tool. They both work the same. I prefer Colin Ramsden's tool. Actually, and that's the one that's latest update for this, but you can choose either one of those. We have a SAN policy of 3 or 4. If you're not sure which one to use, or which one you want to use, just go to the help file. You'll see SAN 3 doesn't mount anything. Everything's offline except for your boot disk, which is going to be your USB or DVD. The SAN policy 4 makes all the internal disk offline, but everything else external or online. I'm not a fan of that one, so I usually will just go for 3. There's a couple other things here we'll go through here. If you have some drivers, let's say you have drivers that you want to add to the build that aren't necessarily in the build, you can add that through here. For our ISO file, there's a couple options that I would suggest. Number one is make this a no. We're pressing any key to boot from CD. We don't want the option that you have to press a key to boot to CD. Firmware, we'll just keep both here. We'll keep this that same, keep this same. Or WinFE ISO file. Here's the options that I prefer and suggest. You don't have to do. You can do whichever one you prefer. If you keep it yes, it's just going to create a WinFE.iso file, and if you rebuild your WinFE, it's going to overwrite your old one. Or you can choose no, and that's just going to append the date and time of the file that's WinFE that you built. So I prefer to do that so I know, the date and time of when I made it, so I know that the latest versions. So once all those are checked, that I want to be checked, I simply run build, and we're going to let this go. It does give you a little warning here, just not really warning, just tells you you're going to be using Windows 10 Pro. In this case, here's your build, and it's not an error, it's just, are you ready to go? Confirming it. So we'll let this run. I'm going to speed it up a little bit here. Okay, we're going to have another pop-up come up. As it's running through these scripts, it's injecting your X-rays, it's injecting whatever other programs or apps we chose. And it's coming down to the WinFE script. And once it hits that script, it's telling you, are you sure you want to build this? It's going to be a WinFE project. I mean, it's not going to be a PE. It's going to be an FE, which is the whole purpose of this, of course. Again, it's just running through the scripts, finalizing our shell. It's going to come to our ISO file here shortly. Almost done. And we are finished. If you had any errors, it would show us some errors there. So now we're going to boot it, our WinFE, mini WinFE 10. And first thing pops up is this language. We're going to choose, well, I'm going to choose US English. And the next thing we get is a warning. Now this is just a warning of saying that this is a software write blocker. So you can bypass it. You can also bypass hardware as well, but we'll choose we understand. Here we have 2 disks. You see our disk number 1. That's actually my USB drive that I have in here. That could be an external drive, whatever my target destination drive. So I want to mount that because I want to write to it. And it says read only, which is yes, I want to make this read writable because I'm going to copy files to it. I'm going to maybe image to it and run programs from it. So here we have our evidence disk is 0. It's read only. And now we're booting into our OS. Now the resolution is not that good, so let's go ahead and change it here. Yeah, that looks much better. So here's a resolution. We have a little menu, and you can see our programs here. We go right back to the Write Protect tool if we want. With Protect, we have some programs, FTK Imager. You can see FTK Imager runs here. We can use it as normal. I'm not going to go through how to use FTK Imager. Same with X-Rays Forensics. It runs fully in here as well. We're not going to go through how to use that either. But some other things we have in here, command prompt. If you have tools that run on a command prompt, you have that there. We have disk part. I wouldn't recommend using disk part, but it is part of WinPE, and if you're familiar with it, you may have a need for it. Other things we have Notepad, regedit, a couple other tools here, but not that many tools that I'm really suggesting to put in there, other than what you can put on your, let's say, your external drive. So here's my external drive, my USB drive. You can see that I have FTK Imager, different versions of FTK Imager Lite, the 3.4, I think 3.1 for the Lite. I have X-Rays Forensics. If I have other tools, I can use that just off of my USB drive. And if I want to add more tools, I can just add it to my USB drive without having to rebuild WinFE. So there you have Mini WinFE, the new version. It's the Write Protect tools updated, quick and easy to build. This is a short version of how to build it in 10 minutes or less. It may take a little bit longer than that to build it, but